This is Living Healthy with Jackie Bell, the show with the information on health that you need to know from people you can trust. Brought to you by The Woman in You.
Hi, my name is Jackie Bell. Welcome to Living Healthy. I'm your host. Today we're going to talk about how to choose healthy foods at the supermarket, grocery store, and the consequences of choosing foods that are unhealthy and actually toxic for you. We've invited back Dr. Daniel Beilin. He's from the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome, Dr. Beilin.
It's great to be here again, Jackie.
Dr. Beilin has practiced complementary medicine for 23 years and has a neurophysiology, gastroenterology, as well as herbal pharmacology background. He's internationally recognized for his contributions to early detection of breast and other cancers. Dr. Beilin also testified before our U.S. Congress regarding women's cancers in 2002 and has a patent pending on a new type of medical thermography device after having passed a previously existing device through the FDA and successfully marketing it to over 150 physicians. Dr. Beilin is a doctor to several Hollywood personalities, such as Jane Seymour and Stevie Wonder, and he has created several products, including the antidepressant, anti-anxiety WellMind from Allergy Research Group. And Dr. Beilin was the first to publish on the antidepressant benefits of St. John's wort, which was utilized by Gaia Herbs to make the first national exposures of its benefits for Newsweek magazine some 15 years ago. So Dr. Beilin, we're going to first cover what foods not to buy, what not to do, what foods are not healthy and actually potentially toxic to our system, and the consequences that we might face by eating too much of these or some of them at all.
Yeah, well, what I did was I went to your neighborhood grocery store and went down the aisles and selected a few things that have different kinds of toxins in them. And then we're going to go over the consequences to having those foods long term. Okay. So I think, why don't we get started? The first chemical is NutraSweet, and diet drinks. Anything that says diet, you better look for NutraSweet or aspartame. And this is called a excitotoxin. An excitotoxin acts like methamphetamine in the brain. It actually causes a hyper excitation of groups of neurons that burn out brain cells. So the whole diet revolution was a huge mistake, and now they're using other things that are not quite as bad. However, the aspartame that's still in the market and in such drinks, you better just get it away because it's going to cause long-term ADD. It's going to cause actually weight gains because it affects the pituitary.
So that's a misnomer to say that it's a diet beverage?
Yes, you should never have anything that says diet on that. The proper diet is having things that are mostly vegetarian and cruciferous vegetables and good grains, hopefully not one you're allergic to, and fatty acids like in fish oil, and getting the good oils and good minerals from and good fiber from fruit, and going into an anti-cancer direction. It's really not worth it to be taking any kind of Pepsi. There's also phosphoric acid in carbonated drinks that's carcinogenic. So anytime you see phosphoric acid, you shouldn't get it. So the other thing that's in here is high fructose corn syrup. You can Google high fructose corn syrup and glucose. Glucose is the sugar that's in anything that's sweet like apples and fruit. High fructose corn syrup is a fructose group that's been actually synthesized or extracted from fruits that's different than what's really in fruit. And they've done a study now in that it's causing pancreatic cancer right and left.
So corn syrup on an ingredient, as an ingredient, is different than high fructose corn syrup.
Right. So, but 90% of all of our soft drinks and all of our sweet drinks, even juices, iced tea, that's sweetened has high fructose corn syrup. Look at that and get rid of that bottle. Don't pick it up at the store because pancreatic cancer is increasing and it's very difficult to detect the first parts of pancreatic. By the time you have pancreatic cancer, you know, you're down the line in trouble.
So what other foods that we'll see high fructose corn syrup, would that be like cereals?
It's all over the place. It's in cereals,
so it's really
in anything that tastes a little bit sweet these days.
Okay.
Health food stores are the place to look, and you want, you know, natural sugars are fine, like brown sugars and cane sugars, and you know, the various
stevia,
things coming
xylitol.
from plants. Xylitol is fine. Stevia is okay. And there's a few new ones that are coming from different tropical fruits.
Agave.
Agave has been compared a little bit to maybe be like a fructose, and it might not be as safe as it should. Honey is very good, and honey has a benefit of being an antifungal property. You notice that mold doesn't form easily on honey. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to help your immune system and balance allergies, you get a honey that's taken from bees from your area, your geographic
local
area.
Honey.
And that actually has a lot of the messages from the plants in your area that actually are beneficial, you know, by the time they get through the bee thing.
Okay, so no diet drinks and high fructose corn syrup in the trash.
Yes.
Okay,
the next thing is our brains and our immune systems. And what's going to hurt our brains and immune systems is tuna. Don't get tuna, don't buy it, don't eat it, because all tuna, because of the kind of fish it is, it absorbs mercury from other fish.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's just like each individual is different. But tuna has a predisposition to actually absorb more mercury than any other fish.
So mercury is in the sea?
Yes, and other fish absorb some of it, and tunas eat a lot of the fish that do have some mercury, not as much. So then they accumulate it in their
because they're eating a lot of fish,
tissue.
they're getting a higher dose.
And also they have a predisposition to absorb more, to keep more in their body. So tuna is out. That also means, you know, when you have sushi that, you know, don't have the tunas. There's a little bit less in things like hamachi yellowtail, but that's still in the tuna family, so that has a little bit less than the regular,
now we know
like
fish
albacore.
is good for us, so what fish should we be eating?
So that's that. The best fish is salmon, wild-caught salmon, of course. I don't trust this new genetically modified, fast-growing salmon. I think it's maybe one of the most dangerous things they could do, because they're adding a growth hormone. You don't know whether it's left over in the fish. It's going to go into, say, somebody that has the first signs of cancer, make the cancer grow without them even knowing it, or it's too late.
So you want to eat the smaller fish then? You don't want to eat the larger?
The smallest fish are the healthiest, like sardines, have selenium in them. Selenium is anti-cancer. It's a catalyst for enzyme processes that help us to detoxify and oxygenate. So selenium is very high in anchovies and sardines. So those are the best. And then you go with the wild-caught salmon, and halibut is like in the middle, has a little bit of mercury. Swordfish has mercury and often a certain type of bacteria that's not good for the body.
Okay, so especially any fish that's eating another fish, best to stay away from.
Yeah, but you know, fish has beneficial oils, so you have to kind of weigh that and just choose the ones that are not the highest in the things we know that are toxic. Okay. And in every market now they have mercury levels of each kind of fish. You can usually find a little chart near the fish section, and you should pay attention. Okay, let's go on to our next. Well, things like this.
This is Ritz crackers made with real cheese.
Yeah, we all grew up with this, and our moms all served this to us, and it has really interesting things in it, like these phosphates and emulsified lecithin and artificial colors like yellow dye number 5. You know, you know, if you went to the store and you could buy some pure yellow dye number 5 because you wanted your food to look really yellow, but you just came back from the hospital seeing an advanced cancer patient, and you asked them what they had been having, and they had all foods with food coloring. So many of these dyes are carcinogenic. And so the reds and the yellows and cadmium is, you know, a known poison. They used to put some red dyes, you know, for cadmium. So these things are not just like yellow color. They actually have heavy metals as part of them, which is, you know, goes to our brain, blocks our activity, our normal activity, can be associated with things like ADD and even Alzheimer's.
So we need to look for any foods that have coloring in them. Pickles, I notice, even olives, they'll try to keep the coloring relish.
So you know, if you go to a lot of foreign countries like olives, like you go to Italy and they're not coloring those olives, they come right off the trees and they, you know, they can fix them for a while, but it's done with no artificial this or that or chemicals. So we'll get rid of these things. Now, yeah, my mother has a little dog, and every night before bed she was feeding the little dog some of these craft singles, which we also all grew up on. We love to like peel away the plastic. So not only do we have plastic going into our food, which is pure carcinogen, they think that the biggest waves of breast cancer are due to the plastic industry, because certain plastics imitate different bad estrogens in the body. They act just like them and they trigger mechanisms of cancer. But this cheese, given one every night to a dog, will kill them. It causes pancreatitis and pancreatic cancer. And it took about 4 months to reverse that in this dog after I found her giving this absolute crap to an animal, let alone, you know, it's a little different for a dog. Like dogs shouldn't have chocolate. Well, we can have chocolate, but it's basically the same kind of fake cheese. I mean, you would never find this like in the Tyrolean Alps with the cows growing there and anybody making anything like this, let alone
so that's ultra processed and difficult to digest, coloring, plastics.
Not really cheese by the time you get done with it. I mean, it has cheese culture and it has some kind of enzyme, but it probably won't help you to digest it. You have to use your own enzymes, and I don't think we have the enzymes to do that. Pringles. I remember I tried these like 2 times and I became nauseous and I had to go to bed after like having 10 of them, but they sure taste good.
Those have yellow dye in them as well?
Yeah, and they have MSG in them. You know, a lot of these chemicals, even plant protein extract is another name for MSG. Some of the yeast that they put into food is another name for MSG, because MSG is an amino acid and that's found in yeast, so they use yeast to get this preservative, and what MSG does is the same thing that the aspartame does. It's an excitotoxin and it hyperstimulates parts of the brain and burns brain cells. So, and you can imagine the colorings that are in here and the cheddar cheese. Do you think it really, you know, has some really high quality German cheese in it? No, I don't think so. So, Slim Fast, well, we want to all get thin, right? And so we want to use things that are really going to work. And this probably, oh, it probably allowed some people to lose some weight, maybe because they grew cancerous tumors that absorbed all their nutrients for them. But, you know, this has the high fructose corn syrup. It has peanuts. Peanuts are hold a fungus called aspergillus. The fungus is related to different cancers. So peanuts are really, you shouldn't have peanut butter. You shouldn't have any peanut product because they do have this fungus in all the crops. Try to go to almonds. Try to go to some other nuts. This has things that are not exactly digestible, like palm kernel oil, caramel color, disodium phosphate again, so the phosphates are also carcinogenic. And, but they do have a few things like coconut, but that's the last ingredient in here. They probably have 1 microgram.
So are we going to get thin eating this?
Yeah, if you get ill from it, you probably won't be able to eat. But the theory is very weak, and you can do like frequent protein to develop a low-grade ketosis to lose weight much faster. And of course, there's that strange thing called exercise that, you know, I don't know why, but people are kind of, you know, doing a little bit more of nowadays, and that's a good thing.
Let's talk about the wheat before we get into the
okay. So, how many people have a skin condition? How many people have sinus allergies? How many people have Crohn's disease or colitis?
Irritable bowel or...
Yeah, any kind of bowel problem, any kind of skin problem. The skin is the reflection of the bowels, of the intestines. And wheat is the #1 culprit in intestinal problems in adults, whereas milk, cow milk, is in children. So wheat is the first thing to be stopped in any kind of inflammation. It causes systemic inflammations in about 80% of all people, and the body compensates and tries to compensate, but it in some people and a lot of people can't compensate enough, and so they develop symptoms. And what do? Say they have irritable bowel and stomach, and they start to feel these pains, and then they take not Centrum, but they take Tums. So here we are, we have this inflammation caused from wheat, and now there's rice bread, spelt bread, pure rye bread. There's so many substitutes, and they actually, a lot of them taste better, and they have more fiber in them, so you have a better internal environment to have a more complete evacuation, and you have also losing weight, because anytime you have inflammation, you have a decrease in your body's ability to give off enzymes that it needs to do the process of losing that weight. So we're going to get rid of the bread, and now we have an intestinal problem, and we take Tums. Now Tums is chalk, it's calcium carbonate. That's, you know, when we were, you know, young and learning our first chemistry, we used to put some hydrochloric acid on chalk and let it, you know, bubble up. And that's what it does. It's a neutralizer for hydrochloric acid. So why do we have hydrochloric acid? Well, if we have too much hydrochloric acid in the stomach, that's what the doctors say, at least. You know, I was in gastroenterology for 4 years at UCLA. It's not that you have too much hydrochloric acid. There are acids in the body that need an exit point. And so the body, because of a bad diet and too much acid-forming foods, causes the stomach to want to get rid of more acid. So then you suppress that expression of the body's problem. The body's just trying to tell us messages. The body's trying to tell us that you have an acid internal environment in your tissues. We're supposed to get rid of our acids at about 3 or 4 in the morning through the kidneys. We have a dumping of major acids into the bladder and urine. But if you have too much, you can't get rid of it all, and then it exits through other methods.
So this is only going to cause further acidity or further
Well, if you
problems?
turn off acids, you won't be able to digest the foods that you need to bring nutrition. So you're not only blocking part of the systems that are necessary to absorb nutrients, but what does calcium carbonate do in the intestines? It acts like a complete, like chalk barrier, almost like plaster of Paris. Totally insulates the absorption so that you don't absorb nutrients through the small intestine.
Well, then if you're not absorbing nutrients, you need to...
Well, with something else I like in here, it's got things like red dye 40 lake and yellow 6 lake and yellow. I mean, you know, it's really cool to be taking different color pills. I mean, we used to have those Necco wafers. Tarts. Yeah, and so for adults, you know, we like to pretend like we're kids, and we end up with worse disease than they ever get. Centrum. How many times have I had patients that come in and say, well, I'm taking a multiple vitamin, and this is the one that I have, Centrum. Well, first of all, don't buy vitamins at Costco, and don't buy vitamins at grocery stores, and don't buy vitamins at drugstores. There's a couple of brands that are okay. But you go to health food stores and they have really highly quality controlled. These are not quality controlled. What happens to the B vitamins here? They're taken from yeast that's sat on the shelf for like up to 4 years. While yeast is a fungus, they get mold in the shelves and they put that in here along with a lot of other unnecessary things for a vitamin. Why in a vitamin that's supposed to be B vitamins and D vitamins and A, why in a vitamin do you need FD&C blue #2 or aluminum lake FD&C or polyethylene glycol that's a carcinogen that's used only in like suntan lotions and some cosmetics as a binder? Why do you need that? You don't need any of this stuff.
So is that even absorbable?
Nickel sulfate. Nickel is a carcinogen. It's not even, I don't think, used anymore in crowns. They for obvious reasons. You know, it has some pretty questionable things. And so how much are you going to get in something like Centrum of what you really need? Well, this is absolutely worthless. You'd get much more vitamins out of eating a piece of lamb if it was grass-fed or whatever.
Are you going to tell us not to brush our teeth?
Yes. Do not brush your teeth. No, really, you know, there's a lot of wisdom that's gone into generations of toothpaste. In India, they use several herbs for toothpaste, like neem. Neem is a tree that actually is antibacterial and antifungal, and that's the main thing in the gums, because our whole mouths in the gum lines are filled with bacteria that can actually cause heart damage if they're let to go, and other kind of infections. And what this has been for all these years is the theory of fluoride. I don't know if it's absolutely true, but there are rumors that Hitler used fluoridation of his water supply to make the people more docile so he could manipulate them. Fluoride's been used since that time.
Sodium fluoride.
And it actually, yeah, or stannous fluoride. I think these guys at Crest invented that, which is a stannum is tin.
Oh.
So they're actually giving you a heavy metal with the fluoride, which is not a good situation. So tin isn't too bad of a metal. It's not like mercury or arsenic.
But you want to have fluoride, but what?
You don't want to have fluoride because fluoride makes bones brittle.
What about
and it
calcium
makes the teeth,
fluoride?
No fluoride is good. Fluoride is makes the calcium, actually, the matrix become a little bit overstrong and weaker in between. So the best is the natural ones that don't have fluoride in them, that have some herbs. And one of the best things for your gums is coenzyme Q10. And you can get a gel and just wipe it on the gums. And I've done this with many patients where they have like 3 and 4 depth gingivitises, and they're reversed in 2 months with CoQ10 and a good, toothbrush and proper brushing of non-fluoride containing.
Something like peppermint oil or?
Peppermint oil is helpful. However, if I give my patients homeopathy, you don't want peppermint. But there's many other brands. Just make sure they don't have fluoride. And then this one is well known. This not necessarily this company, but black hair dye. If anybody still uses black hair dye, many cancers, breast cancer, uterine cancer, are contributed and stimulated and triggered by black hair dye. It goes right into the scalp, into the blood supply. So the other thing is sunblock. It's now been discovered with the latest research that all these years we've been using sunblock, and even some of the natural ingredients of sunblock, like the cinnamon derivatives, the zinc, they're filtering out the type of UV light that protects us from the bad UV light. So that means that there's a higher chance of melanoma and basal cell cancers from using sunscreen, the opposite of what we thought. And if you study this right now, there's an up-and-coming set of sunscreen elements that are being developed that cover us for both. But most sunscreen is not helping us much. We should have some exposure in the daytime to the sun with like the upper part of our body, and everybody should be on and be tested for vitamin D. And it should be that everybody should have a level of 80, I think it's nanograms per milliliter. So you do a blood test for that and you make sure that it's at least 70, 80, 90, and then you're in a protective range for vitamin D, which helps calcium metabolism and prevents cancers, and it also helps with flu seasons.
So in the last few minutes, let's talk about what we should eat, what the effects are of eating good food.
Okay, well, here's an artichoke. Artichoke has a fantastic effect on the liver. So the liver is responsible for about 3,000 biochemical events in the body, detoxification and breakdown of fats and breakdown of hormones. So artichokes, you know, they make now pills of artichoke extract that's very, very good for liver function. Pineapple. Pineapple has an enzyme in it called bromelain. Bromelain is an anti-inflammatory enzyme. So instead of taking anything anti-inflammatory, like for your joints, you know, like Tylenol or any, you know, kind of other over-the-counter anti-inflammatory, if you eat enough pineapple, like, you know, if you have an inflammation, if you ate like a third of a pineapple every other day, you're going to increase your anti-inflammatory effect. We have apples. Apples have pectin in them. Pectin is an anti-cancer element that's especially helpful in intestinal cancers, preventing intestinal cancers, and it's one of the best fibers in the world. So apples a day do keep the doctor away. And of course we want us all to be organic. The next is citrus. Citrus, of course, is high in vitamin C, which helps our cells communicate with each other, and it's very good after a meal. The skin has antioxidants in it, so if it's organic, you can actually have little parts of the skin, and they aid in detoxification and anti-cancer, but the citrus helps us with vitamin C, and it also helps our digestion like a carminative does, where it stimulates our own enzymes better than if we didn't have it. Lemon, when I make my water for the day, I squeeze half a lemon and put some of the lemon into the water, which is good for gallbladder activity. It stimulates the gallbladder to release bile salts, so it breaks down fats better, and it helps the pH of the whole stomach and the intestinal lining. So lemon, I put it on everything, on salad, on fish, on everything. It's one of the best things on the planet.
You got 2 drinks here.
Yeah, we have green tea, which has elements that are anti-cancer, and I have a friend who's an immunologist. He was at Johns Hopkins, and he advocates green tea in his cancer patients that he's giving vaccines to. He's now practicing in Munich. And of course you can have some of the organic lemonade in tea as long as there isn't too much sugar in it. Anytime you have sugar, you're actually not helping yourself. And so you want to use minimal sugar, and if you do use sugar, you use cane sugar, raw sugar, or some of the sugars that are now coming from tropical fruits. And so that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how each good thing can help the organs that all act in congress to come out with a whole better environment for your body, so you prevent disease and you add longevity in life.
Dr. Beilin, thank you so much for joining us and educating us on how to eat healthy and how to shop.
You're very welcome, Jackie, and I hope to come back soon and continue this discussion on health.
You've been watching Living Healthy. I'm your host, Jackie Bell. Join us next time.